I'm tipping. Wood grain, I'm gripping. Catch me lying, switching with the paint dripping.
Welcome to season 2 of Thoughts and Shit. Now, I know it's been a while, okay, but I'm back. That's all the fuck that matters, all right? If you're new here, why the fuck haven't you listened to season 1 yet? Go listen to that first on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go check that out. If you're a returning visitor, welcome. You know how shit go down here. Unfiltered, raw, no lube. You know, it's what we do around here. Now, season 2 is going to be a little different, okay? First of all, clearly, I'm giving you the option to see me instead of just hearing my voice. If you're anything like me, you're a visual person. So, you know, you kind of want to look at something nice while you're listening to the bullshit, right? Second, I'm going to put you a little bit more in my business, all right? I'm going to answer those questions that y'all been asking me for a while that I kind of just been, you know, half answering here and there, skirting around the issue. You know, give you a little bit more about me because you really don't know who I am, right? You know, other than I just popped up on your page one day and you was like, who is this crazy bitch? But we gonna get to that. And speaking of crazy bitch, there's a third thing that's going to change this season. I'm going to let y'all meet a couple of more of my personalities. If you follow me on TikTok, you know that I'm batshit crazy. And I say a bunch of random out-of-pocket shit. A lot of times, that be my other personalities talking. That don't be me talking. So I'm going to let you meet some of these personalities. And today, we're starting with Pinky. Because today, we're going to be talking about how I met my man. Because somebody asked me that a long time ago, how'd y'all meet? This nigga just popped up out of nowhere. Where the fuck did he come from? So I'm going to answer that question as Pinky because he puts me in my Pink Girl era. I'm really soft around him, and I'm normally not that kind of person. You know, fuck that shit. Mom ain't made no bitch. But tonight, I'll let you see that side of me a little bit. And FYI, you know what the fuck is in this hookah. So, and I'm telling how this shit about to go. I'm just saying. Anyway, I had y'all waiting long enough, so let's just jump straight into it, okay? I'm not even gonna bullshit around. So I know a while ago, one of my followers on TikTok asked me, who the hell is this man that I'm with? Where the fuck did he come from? I know y'all been asking to see him, what he looked like. First of all, you ain't never gonna see that nigga, okay? And not because I'm you know, hiding him from the world. I'm hiding the world from him. Because if y'all come for that nigga and fuck with him, I have to come for all of y'all. And y'all don't want them kind of problems with me, okay? I'm just saying. I don't play about my man. But you'll never see him until I'm ready for you to see him. But I figure I could tell you a little bit about, you know, how we met. He didn't just randomly spawn overnight. You know, I know he kind of came up like that to y'all on my TikTok page because one day I was just single, bullshit talking, you know, crazy girl. And then like the next day I was in a fucking relationship, you know, all in love and booed up and shit. And y'all was like, what? How the fuck this happened? But he's always been there. I've known him since we met in 2019 is when we first met. It was on a dating site. I had been separated from my ex, my kid's dad. Me and him, we weren't like legally married. We were common law married. So we separated for probably about maybe a year when I met my boyfriend because it was on Bumble. I was on a dating app on Bumble. I was like heavy. Okay, I ain't say heavy in the streets, but I was in the streets. I mean, I was newly single, 27, 28, something like that. Of course, I'm gonna live my life, right? Like, what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. So I was on Bumble, Tinder, all the dating apps, not looking for love, mind you. I wasn't looking for love, wasn't looking for a relationship, wasn't looking for none of that. I was simply looking for somebody to fuck. Like, that's all I wanted. I didn't want anything else. So I was on Bumble. Like I said, I swiped right on him, saw him. I was like, you know what? This man kind of fine. You know, he just my type. You know, he check off all the boxes. He a little short. Well, I like to say he's short. He 5'11". I'm 5'10". That nigga short in my eyes. But other than that, like he had off of appearance, he was definitely my type. And so at the time, I was looking for somebody to fuck real quick. So we swiped right at each other. We talked back and forth for maybe a couple of days until he was like, he was leaving, going on vacation, going out of town, whatever. And, you know, he'll be back. I was like, all right, cool. You know, have fun, enjoy yourself, bring me back a souvenir. And, you know, he's like, well, what you want me to bring you back? I said, bring me back a hat. Never got that hat, mind you. Nigga, if you watching this, I still want my fucking hat. Never mind, I stole your drawers in the past couple of years. I know you. I still want my fucking hat. Okay. All right. Anyway, so he went on vacation or whatever the fuck he went to. And like I said, we hadn't exchanged any information as far as like numbers or anything like that. I think we might exchange like social media information, Instagram or something. He went on vacation and then it was like out of sight, out of mind. You know, I kind of forgot that I swiped right on this nigga. I forgot that we connected. Because at that time, it was so many fucking niggas, you know, that you were just swiping right, dating, get to know, whatever. So he was just kind of like another person in the pot at the time. Some months had passed. I forgot that he even existed. Clearly he forgot that I existed because he went on vacation, didn't come back with my hat or to say, hey, I'm back. 6-7 months later, I don't think this nigga still on vacation. If I remember who the fuck he was, I didn't know where he was at. But he ghosted me is what happened. He definitely ghosted me. He'll tell you differently, but we're not listening to his story right now. We're listening to mine. He ghosted me. And then I think it was around like maybe October. No, it was September. The entire month of September, I hadn't had sex. And not purposely doing it. I was just like working so much. I had, a lot of shit going on, trying to transition from being a stay-at-home wife, stay-at-home mom to now being a single mom, raising a child by myself, working. I just didn't have time to be fucking around like that in the streets and just messing with a bunch of random people. So like the whole month of September, I hadn't had sex. And then so what's after September? October? So no, yeah. Then October rolled around and I think I made a post on Instagram saying something like, well, I accidentally did no sex September. I might as well go ahead and do no orgasm October. And so October, I was like, okay, cool. I'm purposely not going to have sex this month. And so didn't have sex then. And then that's when I started to think and really, that clarity you get from not fucking, like, because when you out there just fucking and just getting a dick left and right, however you want it to, it's like your mind is clouded by, all the bullshit and you can't really think and process shit like you should. So not having sex gave me time to really sit, be by myself and really think like, what the fuck else do I have to give any of these men other than my body? Especially coming from my ex-husband. Like he would say shit to me like, I should have just nutted in you and left like every other nigga you ever known. Or, you ain't nothing but a little slut or whore. You out there fucking everybody. Like, he would just say some of the like most outlandish things to me. Half the shit wasn't true. I wasn't out there like he assumed I was. I never was like that. But I had my fair share of fun. Let's be honest here. So hearing those kind of things from him, from my supposed to be my husband, supposed to love me, it really got me thinking like I really don't have anything to offer a man other than my body. So that's the only thing I'm good for. So let me just keep having sex with people. But not having sex for those 2 months at the time, it really gave me a chance to think like, who am I? Like, what's my worth? What's my value? Like, I already had a child. I was in my late 20s, and I'm just now having that conversation of, do I have any value to my life other than my body? What else do I have to offer to a man other than what's between my legs? And so I was like, okay, cool. Since I already went 2 months with not having sex, I want to make this a journey now. I want to be celibate. I don't want to have sex with anybody. And it was never for the fact of, a man need to get to know me before. It was none of that. It was just I needed to get to know me. I needed to know, am I a good person outside of making a man just feel good physically? And so started this whole celibacy journey. And I think maybe the end of October, I think I decided, okay, I really want to go ahead and be celibate. But I didn't just want to just be in the moment. I wanted to kind of, document it and journal it and figure it helped somebody else, who might be going through the same situation. So I started a blog documenting my celibacy journey, how it was going, how I got here, experiences that I had in life that got me to that point of wanting to be celibate, and how this journey was going to, strengthen me and make me a better person. And so I'm started this blog. I'm posting, new entries, posted on Instagram, say, hey, I got a new blog entry up, whatever. Not knowing the whole time that, my man at the time, random nigga, was watching that. Saw that on Instagram. Like I said, I forgot that we had exchanged that Instagram information, even though he ghosted me. But all this time, like, he was keeping up with that, and I had no idea. I'm just out here just trying to work on me and be a better person. And so I think it came around to November. Yep, it was November. I remember because it was around Thanksgiving. So it was November, and I think I was doing like a blog a week, and I was just like telling stories about my past. Like I said, if you know me on TikTok, you know I got some wild stories. I got some wild shit. And then plus my mind is just fucked up. So, ain't no telling what's gonna come out of my mouth. And so all this was in the blog. And so he was reading it and I didn't even know it. And then so November, I started No Nut November, continue writing, and then I get a message from him on Instagram one day and he was like, "Hey, what's up with this whole celibacy journey thing? Like, tell me about that." And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I entertained him at the time, but there were so many other guys who were messaging me the same time when I was, just started being celibate, because they had this whole mindset of either one, oh, she's celibate, she ain't having sex, she ain't fucking, I'm gonna be the one to try to get her to fuck. Like, they would try to approach me with that type of shit. Or they would come to me on some salty shit, like, oh, the only reason you ain't fucking is because you've been a hoe your whole life, and now you trying to, act like you somebody, make a man wait. I'm like, it ain't got nothing to do with no man. Me being celibate and not fucking has nothing to do with the man. I don't know who the fuck I am. Like, and that's why, like, clearly, if I do decide I ever want to not be celibate, nigga, it ain't gonna be you, because you basically just told me what I've been hearing my whole life. So I thought he was, messaging me on some shit like that, like any other nigga was doing. So I entertained his conversation a little bit, explained to him why I was on this journey. I just wanted to get to know me, figure out who I am, understand my self-value, my worth, and just become a better person, He was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Everybody should always work on themselves. It's good to hear stories. He said he'd been reading my blogs and they were funny, they were interesting. And, he just wanted to see if this is something I was really serious about or just, some bullshit that I was doing. I was like, no, I'm really serious about this. I'm into this, whatever. So we started talking back and forth a little bit again, getting to know each other, still just through Instagram. And then one day he was like, hey, would you like to just take this off of Instagram and just start messaging each other back and forth? I was like, cool, no problem. Mind you, at this time, I'm still not wanting a relationship. I told myself after I left my ex that I would never get in a relationship again. Like, I was just going to be that single fine auntie that roll up the cookouts, maybe have a special friend here or there, but I never want to be in a serious relationship again, because to love on that level again, it was like something I wasn't willing to do. I didn't want to compromise my happiness again for anybody. So I was like, I'll be single for the rest of my life. So meeting him, it was like, yeah, we just friends, we just kicking it. And if we ever get to the point of deciding what to fuck, that's what it is. But it ain't never gonna be nothing more than that. Cool, we can be friends. So I wasn't trying to impress him. I wasn't trying to sell myself to him or anything like that. I was solely just trying to see if I could be a friend to a man without, trying to take his drawers from him. That's it. So we exchanged information. We started texting back and forth, getting to know him a little more. And then I remember him telling me that he makes candles. Okay. I immediately went, all right, this nigga think he a fucking little play, a little pimp or some shit like that. Like I get his gig. I see what he doing. That's how he get panties. That's how he out here fucking all the bitches. First of all, he fine as shit. Nice, dark skinned, chocolate looking nigga. Fucking love it. He already got brownie points right there alone to get any bitch that he want. In my mind, that's how I'm thinking. Okay. And then second, you making candles, nigga? What bitch don't like candles? What bitch don't want something that smells good? And a fine man making some smell good candles, you fucking everybody out here, but you ain't gonna fuck me. Like, that's how I was thinking, like, for real. Like, that ain't gonna happen over here, okay? So we really just gonna be friends. I'm already not having sex anyway, but I'm making sure we not going to have sex, because I feel like I thought he was that type of dude that, been out here just with this scam to get bitches, and I wasn't gonna be on his list. I'm thinking, all right, he make candles, yeah, right. This nigga, like, he buying some candles out of the store, some shit, slapping a label on them, calling them his, and selling it to needy bitches who just want some attention. So, like, That's what I was thinking. And plus, like, he looked like he could really be a hood nigga, if I'm being honest. And I like that shit about him. Because he looks like he could be rough around the edges. But listening to him break down the process of how he's making the candles and how it's so got to be so perfect with the measurements and this and that, and he's explaining the process. I'm like, oh shit, this is a hood nigga, but this is a fucking smart ass, nerdy ass hood nigga, and that shit was even better. That shit turned me on. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I see why women probably throwing himself at him, because I was like, you look like that and you a fucking nerd. Like, I can sit and have a very intellectual conversation with you. Like, don't break cat. Don't get this nigga the panties. It's not gonna happen. So then he offers to me one day. He was like, so yeah, I can let you try some of my candles. I can bring you a couple of them, let you sample them or whatever. I was like, okay, cool. Let's just meet in a neutral location so I can pick up the candles. And I was determined, like I said, to not. I mean, of course, I was attracted to him because that's why I initially swiped right on him on Bumble. But I was determined to not act like I was trying to pursue him or chase after him, because I didn't want to give that message, because that's not what I wanted at all. If we were going to be friends, let's just be friends. Cool. And we ain't never got taken nowhere. But I don't want you to look at me as somebody that, you wanted something serious with, because I couldn't offer that at the time. So we met up at Walmart after I got off work. He showed up, and then seeing him in person, I was like, okay, this is a nice looking guy. He looks exactly the way he looks in his pictures. That's good. Still wasn't trying to pursue him like that, but I was like, he all right. He definitely my type. So I picked out some candles. We sat, we talked a little bit in the Walmart parking lot, and then he was like, you look kind of cold. You wanna take this conversation somewhere else? I was like, sure, why not? There's a Starbucks up the street. Let's just go sit up there. So I'm thinking, let's just go up to Starbucks, sit there, grab a cup of coffee, talk like maybe 30, 45 minutes, and I go about my business. I don't know how long I sat there with this man, but I sat there, had to be for at least 2 hours, maybe longer. I don't know. We just sat in Starbucks and just talked like we've known each other for fucking forever. We sitting there laughing, joking. Our personalities are meshing together really well. Nobody was trying to put on a front or, impress the other. We were just really sitting there just laughing, being ourselves, joking on each other, joking on people around us, just, talking, cutting the shit. That's all it was. Great conversation. I forgot I was supposed to be leaving to go do my coworker hair that night. So I was like, look, I got to cut this short, whatever. I got to go. I was supposed to be doing somebody's hair a long time ago. I gotta go ahead and fulfill my obligations. So we ended that, went on about our way. I said it was a nice time with him, but I really wasn't looking too much into it. I was like, it is what it is. If we hang out again, we see each other again, great. If not, so be it. But I gotta stay on my journey, keep finding out who I am. He was just another person in passing that I probably never see again. I think he might have hit me up the next day. We stayed in contact here and there, but I still wasn't looking too deep into it. It might have been a week, maybe 2 weeks or so. He hit me up. He was like, hey, you want to hang out? You want to go do something, whatever? I was like, hey, cool, sure, no problem. So I think the first outing we had, and I call it an outing because I never considered it a date. I considered it like just two friends just hanging out. And I didn't want to see it or perceive it as a date, because then that would put me in a mindset of, I feel like I have to try to, not necessarily get him to like me, but present myself a certain way as like desirable by a man. I'm like, I don't care if you desire me or not. This is me. It's we two friends. I'm a fucking goofy, offbeat white girl at heart, So either you like it or you don't. And so I was like, cool, we can go out, have fun, chill, whatever. And I think the first thing we ended up doing, we went bowling. That's right. Not too crazy. That was fun. I beat his ass, no surprise. And then we didn't want like the night to end because we was like still having so much fun. So I was like, cool, you want to go axe throwing? He was like, hell yeah. So we went axe throwing next. I beat his ass again. Once again, no surprise. That was fun. We were still like in that competitive spirit at that point. We were really out there having fun. Like, it was really like I was hanging out with a homeboy that I have known for fucking years. And so we was like really in that, like I said, competitive spirit. We was like, cool, let's not end it there. You want to go skating? We was like, hell yeah. So we went skating around the ring. I think that was probably the best out of the three to really get to see his personality and how he acted in different situations. Because, out there skating, you're going to fall and bust your ass. You're bound to be embarrassed. So it was, interesting to see him in that element, see a different, I guess, set of emotions or feelings or whatever. So that was a good time as well. Had a fucking blast. And I was all right, he's all right. I would hang out with him again. I wouldn't mind having him around as a friend. So let me get to know him a little better just to see who he is as a person. And so we continued to talk after that. I know maybe another week or so passed, and he was like, hey, you want to hang out again? And we made plans to go out to dinner, but after I got off work, I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I've been working all day. I kind of just want to chill in my own space and not go anywhere. But I'm big on energy. Like I can almost pick up immediately around being around a person if your energy meshes well with mine or not, and if I can be comfortable around you or not. And I don't even have to hang out with you. I can be sitting in a room full of people, and all of a sudden the energy would just shift. And if somebody new will walk in, I'll look at them like that person, that their energy is completely thrown off the fucking vibes in this room. And 9 times out of 10, I'm usually right. And so with him, from the very first time that I met him in person, the energy has always been just a peaceful one. Like it's always been peaceful. It's always been calming. It's one that kind of gave me happiness and joy. Always felt comfortable around him. It's never been anything that's been off. And so, like I said, the second time of us wanting to hang out, I felt comfortable enough, even though only hanging out with him once already. Really hanging out with him once already. I felt comfortable enough to tell him, to say, hey, just come back to my place. I really don't want to go out. I don't want to get dressed or anything. I'll order us something to eat. We'll just sit and chill at my place. And I did this knowing that, yeah, there might have been that possibility that things could have gone south and he may decide to, in my mind, show his true colors now and try to get at me like that. I know that's always a possibility, but I felt comfortable enough. So I was like, I don't think he's the type of person. I don't think that he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to be disrespectful in any way. I think I can be comfortable around him and not fear for my safety. So he came over. We hung out for hours, just sit, laughing, talking, watch TV a little bit, listen to music. That kind of became our thing over time, just sitting for hours and just listening to music and just talking. He never tried me. That first time he came over, he never tried me. He was never disrespectful. It was just two friends just really enjoying each other's company with no pressure of, oh, you gotta like me, or do you see me as a girlfriend? It was none of that extra added pressure on there. It was just genuinely two people who were just trying to put good in the world, hanging out. That's all it was. And we continued to do this for months. Just hang out for hours and hours and hours at a time. Never at any point did he ever spend the night. Never spent the night. He come over no matter how late it got. And he lived an hour away from me. No matter how late it got, he always left. Matter of fact, there were a couple times to where we were sitting around, hanging out, having a good time, just chilling. And then all of a sudden he would just jump up like, yeah, I gotta go. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Did I say something? Why the fuck he just jump up and leave? It wasn't until years later that I found out that, he was high. And then, from being high, he got horny. And he started to feel those urges come out. And he didn't want to disrespect me. So he was like, let me remove myself from this situation and to let her continue on her journey. And, I'll go away and just deal with this on my own. And so and I appreciated that shit. Like he never pressured me to thinking, well, I appreciate that he never said, yeah, I gotta go because I'm feeling some kind of way now. I'm feeling like I want to fuck now. You ain't giving me nothing, so let me leave. Like never saying that, but just taking that mature route of, okay, I'm feeling this. This is not her issue to deal with. This is my issue to deal with. Let me get up. Let me leave. So I can be respectful for her. And I appreciate that shit. And so, like I said, and for months we just hung out and just did that. Especially, like, it got to a point where I admit, after about maybe 6 months into getting to know him, I started to think things like, okay, why the fuck isn't he trying me? Why isn't he trying to fuck every time he come over here? And I've been putting him into some compromising positions. Like, I would walk around with fucking booty shorts on sometimes, because it's my pajamas in my house. Why the fuck would I not want to wear what I want to wear? You know. And okay, another thing that we really got in the habit of doing, I would just, every time he come over, especially because he worked long hours, he had a lot of shit going on, and I just wanted to create a place of peace and relaxation for him. Even though, like, we weren't dating, weren't trying to get to know each other like that. As a friend, I wanted to not bring any extra added stress to his life, but give him a place to feel like he can go to just relax and be himself and not have to feel like he has to uphold this strong man image for the world. So he would come over and I was like, just relax. You know, I would rub his back, I would rub his head, just trying to get him to woo-side as much as possible after the long week that he had and all the shit that he had going on. And like, so I would purposely put him in compromised positions. You know, you rub his back, like, yeah, just put your head in my lap, you know. Don't put your head on there. It's just, it smells good. Don't worry. So, but not realizing he was also setting traps and putting me in compromising positions too. Like, he would, cause I would rub his back for a while. I would just rub his back, but he had a shirt on. And then one day he came over, and like I said, he's 5'11". I weigh more than this man. But he's not skinny by any means. But clothes on, he looks smaller. And so I was like, he just an average looking dude. You know, it is whatever. And until one night, he took his shirt off for me to rub his back. And I was like, ooh, what's that? What's that sign in the mirrors? The objects in mirror may be larger than they appear, whatever. Like, that was definitely him. Like, as with his clothes on, he looks just average build. But he took that shirt off, and I was like, damn. All this chocolate just melting in my lap, and I can't do not a damn thing with it. But me not knowing, like, he was setting that trap for me. You know, I thought he was just... Now that I think about it, no, that nigga was putting on a fucking show. Like, why didn't I see that shit? I was so fucking blinded. But... So yeah, he was setting traps for me too, but neither one of us were giving in to the other one. We were just continuing on being friends, hanging out, just whatever. And then so, like I said, all this going back and forth, and the whole time I'm thinking, if he ain't tried me yet, if he ain't tried to fuck yet, this nigga gotta be gay. I know this nigga fucking gay. Like, I mean, look at me. Like, and back then, like, don't get me wrong, I look good as shit now. Don't try me. But back then, I think I was at one of my best. I was in my prime. I was like, what, 29, 28, 29? I was good, you know? And so for him to be there, you know, with me and me basically laying it out for him and him not trying me, I was like, this nigga got to be gay. Like, there's no way he's not gay. He ain't tried me yet. And it was just hard for me, from all the experiences I've had younger, it was hard for me to fathom the idea that there was actually a man who was a gentleman, who was respectable, who wasn't going to make me feel uncomfortable, who wasn't going to try to take advantage of my body just because he could and, you know, use me or whatever. I just couldn't fathom that there was any man like that existed. You know, needless to say, before he matured, he was definitely that type of person. I mean, he was a whore. He was a fucking slut. Like, it was disgusting. But anyway, like, he had grown up and matured so much into this gentleman who was just fucking amazing. I couldn't see that at the time because I'd never experienced anything like that before. He never tried me. We just kept hanging out, and I was talking to my homegirl one day, and I was like, I don't know why the fuck this nigga ain't tried me yet. Like, I'm at that point where I feel like I want to fuck him now, but he ain't making no advances. Mind you, I'm the one that said I'm the celibate, that I didn't want to have sex. I didn't want a relationship. So why was it so hard for me to fucking believe that he heard what I said and he respected it? Like, I laid it out and he was just doing what I said. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, why the fuck are you not doing what I said? Which is the most ridiculous way of thinking ever. But I told my homegirl, like, yeah, I really think I'm ready to have sex with this nigga. But I want him to try it. I don't want to be the one to try to initiate it, which was fucking stupid to me. You know, closed mouths don't get fed. And so me and her, we were hanging out one day, and I think we might have been into like maybe 8 months or so of knowing each other at this time. I said consistently hanging out. That's it, nothing else. Me and my homegirl was hanging out one day after work. We were drunk as shit, like fucked up bad. And I had her phone because I was texting some dude that she knew, and so she got my phone and she asked me what his name was, and I told him what the name was, and she found it in my phone. I'm not knowing she texting this nigga, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm texting him." I said, "Texting him what?" And she was like, "Oh, you'll see." So I didn't know that she sent the text message. You know, I didn't approve it or anything, but she sent him something along the lines of, "So what's up? I'm ready to fuck. We gonna do this or not?" You know, something along those lines. I can't remember. And I'm looking at her like, oh shit, why did she do that? this nigga, he going, I see that, and in my mind, I'm like, why did you do that? But also on the other hand, I'm like, I'm glad you did that because I'm about to get some dick tonight. And so I'm thinking he gonna give the usual nigga response. All right, cool, what's up? You really want to do this? Let's go. But no, I still wasn't aware that I was fucking with a gentleman, you know. And he's big on communication and not having a misunderstanding. So he didn't text me back. He called me. He said, "What's up with that text message?" I was like, nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's my homegirl. You know, she drunk. We out here drunk. We having a good time, and she just texts you that shit. Don't worry about that. He's all right, cool. I chickened out, I punked out, and that ain't me. You know, usually when I want something, I go for it. But with him, it was completely different. You know, like I said, he put me in my soft pink girl era, and I was like, for whatever reason, it was hard for me to be upfront with him. I don't know. I don't know if it was about disrespecting him. I don't know what it was. But I was just like, I was shy around him. I was coy, you know. So a couple of weeks went by. And I'm still talking to my homegirl. She's like, "Bitch, just stop being fucking scared. Message that man. Like, tell him what the fuck you want." So I was drunk one night. Like, I had planned to come home and text him that night. Well, get drunk to have the courage to text him that night and ask him about, like, okay, for real, I want to have sex. And so that finally got to that point. I was drunk as shit at home, got off work, and I texted him, "Hey, what if I told you that I wanted to break or end my celibacy with you?" Send the message, and I fucking freaked out. I panicked. I was like, I don't want to see what he gonna say. In my mind, I'm thinking, all right, it's been that long, and we hadn't had sex yet, and he hadn't tried me. And, you know, my homegirl, quote unquote, jokingly sent it to her and didn't mean to or whatever. And at no point has he still ever brought up the idea of us having sex or trying me like that. So I'm like, you know, women's logic, he must not like me. He must not find me attractive, you know? So I'm going to ask him if he want to have sex, and he either going to say, hell no, I just want to be your friend. Like, you know, we cool. Or he going to give me a nigga answer to be like, you know, hell yeah, I can come over tonight and, you know, drop this dick off in your drawers, you know? Like, it can go either way. Or he could really tell me that he was gay. And that was the end of that. But he gave me a response that I was not expecting at all. Once again, he picked up the phone. He called me. He was like, "I'm not doing that texting shit." He called me and he was like, "Are you serious about it this time?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, so why do you want to break your celibacy?" And so I explained to him, you know, again, why I was on that journey. And I felt like I had accomplished the task of finding out who I was and what I had to offer. And getting to know him and hanging out with him and then the consistent friendship we had going on, it was really starting to make me realize that I could be a friend to a guy because I really do have a good personality. And I can keep a male around long enough just off my personality alone. And that's all I wanted to know. That's all I needed to know, was that my personality was enough to keep somebody around. And I didn't have to give my body to keep them around. And he helped me discover that about myself. And that I accomplished, I was done. That's all I wanted to know. And he was, "Okay, that's great. That's awesome. But why with me and not anybody else?" It's like, I kind of feel like you deserve it because, one, you helped me to get to this part of my life. You helped me to find myself. And then Also, you have been consistently respectful and such a gentleman, and then supporting of my whole process this entire time, like nearly a year, it might have been like 9, 10 months. I said, you've been so respectful and involved in it. Like, he would actually help me take pictures for my blogs. The blogs I was writing, I was still writing at the time. Actually, a lot of the blogs that I wrote were about him. I don't know if he knows that. He might. I'm pretty sure he does. I don't know. But a lot of the blogs I wrote were about him. Like, he was my muse for a while. And so he had been so supportive throughout this whole process. It was like, I feel like you earned it. And I feel like it would be a slap in his face if I went and fucked somebody else, that I met like just 2 days ago just because I wanted to have sex. I didn't just want to have sex. I didn't want it to be meaningful necessarily. I still wanted it to be just good, off the wall, crazy, wild, hanging from the chandelier type sex. But I didn't want to go back to just fucking random people just for the heck of it. So I guess I wanted to have meaning as far as the person knows me, but it didn't have to have meaning as far as, this is going somewhere, or it was like a relationship type shit. So I wanted to have sex with him. I explained all that to him, and he was like, okay, good. He just wanted to make sure that this is something I really wanted to do. This wasn't anything that I was just making a decision on a whim. Like, I was really solid about this decision. And then, so we had a conversation. We talked about that back and forth. He laid some things out on the table for me of reasons why I may or may not want to go take that next step with him or whatever. And I was, okay, I respect you telling me these things. I appreciate that. And then I did the same thing in turn. I gave him some reasons of why he may or may not have wanted to take that next step with me as far as sexual. And one of those things that I did talk to him about, and this is something that I've been struggling with, if I wanted to share publicly or not. And I think I do want to share it publicly because it's been a really long experience of me coming to terms with this part of my life that I'm about to talk about. And I feel like, so many people have gone through it, and they might still be going through it. And I just wanted to be an example of, hey, it gets brighter on the other end of the tunnel. Like, it's fucking fantastic over here. But one of the things that I did tell him was that I was diagnosed with herpes back when I was in college. And at the time when I was diagnosed with it, I had this feeling that it was punishment for something that I had done prior in my life. And that was the punishment that I had to live with for the rest of my life because I was just this bad person. Then when I really sat and thought about it, and part of processing it and coming to terms with it, I had to realize that no, that wasn't a punishment. That wasn't my fault, because the way in which I contracted it, at the time I didn't want to say it, but looking back on it, I realized that I was raped. I was sexually assaulted, and I didn't want to admit that. I just said, oh, there was just miscommunication. Things got a little out of control. As a result, I contracted herpes from this person. So, but I was like, that's not my fault. That shouldn't have happened. That wasn't my punishment for anything. It's just a fucked up part of life. And so I explained that to him. I asked him if he had questions about it. I asked him if he understood what it was, how it could be passed on and all that good stuff. And he asked me whatever question he had to ask me. He did his research about everything, whatever. But at that time, we decided, okay, no, we didn't want to, I decided that I didn't want to pursue us having sex at that time for some reasons that he gave. And then also for just me really trying to figure out, okay, how is he going to perceive this information that I told him about me having herpes? Like, is he really going to shy away from me like other people have? Like, I've had men say some cold hard shit to me after I told them that story. And I was like, is he going to be another one who's going to shy away from it? So I kind of wanted to give it time for that to sit in too, just to see how he was going to react to it. So a couple weeks went by, maybe 3 weeks to a month or so went by. He was still very consistent. He was still messaging me, hit me up. Nothing about him has changed. He was just still cool. And I was like, all right, this might be okay. Let's try this shit again. So I messaged him again while I was at work. I want to say it was in the month of May. I had messaged him while I was at work, and I was like, hey, can we revisit the idea again of us having sex? Like I thought about it. Fuck it. I wanna fuck, nigga. Like I want to see what that thing do. And I had this theory in my mind about him because he was so calm and so reserved and so, he had good restraint, self-control, And I had this theory that if he's like that on a normal basis, every time that we hang out for months and months and months now, at what point does he release all his frustration? At what point does he let that inner, animal come out? And so I figured it got to be in the bedroom, He got to be doing some mean fucking around here. I just know it. He got to be mandango dicking bitches out. I know he is. Like, he can so... And I want to see what that shit is like, right? So I asked him, I was like, can we revisit the idea of us having sex again? He was like, yeah, we can do that. And he was okay. When? I was like, whenever you're available. And he was okay, cool. What you doing tonight? Was not expecting it to happen that fast. Wasn't. But I was like, we can make that happen, come on over. It's whatever. So go home that night. Everything's set up. We ready to, get it going. And I ain't going to get in detail, but my theory has kept me around for this long. And not just that, but I'm just saying it's a bonus. So yeah, that it happened. We finally had sex, and then it was fucking on from then. Like, we were still just friends with benefits, and we could just continue to hang out, continue to conduct ourselves as we had been conducting ourselves. And then, I probably maybe like a year and a half, almost 2 years of knowing him, that's when I started to realize, okay, I really think I like this dude a lot more than as just a friend. I can really see him as something more than a friend. But I didn't think that I was as put together as I wanted to be able to offer a relationship to anybody. So I was like, I'm not even gonna ask about a relationship. And then plus I was under assumption that he didn't want a relationship. Like, when I told him that I didn't want a relationship, I thought I heard him say that he didn't want one either. But in reality, what he said was he wasn't looking for one. But if one came around with the right person, that he would take it. But all I heard was he didn't want a relationship. And so I keep using that as an excuse as to not present myself to him as a possibility of, something more than a friend. It wasn't until I think he had switched jobs, and he started traveling on the road more often. And that's when I realized, okay, I really miss this dude. I really miss not having him around. And I think more so because we were talking more at that time. We were talking on the phone damn near every day, all day, if I wasn't working or off work. Or after work. It's like we were talking so much more to make me realize I really enjoy having him around my life. I really see him as something more than just a friend, but I can't tell him that. And I don't want to ruin our friendship, so I need to reevaluate myself. And so one night I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, I realize that my feelings for you have changed from what they first were, and I don't want to mess up our friendship in any way or sabotage it in any way. I said, so in order to save what friendship that we do have, I need to take a step back and reevaluate myself so I can be a better friend for you. And he was like, that came out of left field, but okay. And that was it. And I was a little hurt by that message because I'm thinking, oh, he didn't care. That proved that he didn't want a relationship with me because he's just so easily okay with me just kind of backing off him for a little bit. And instead of just asking him that shit or talking about it, it was just easier for me to avoid it and just walk away, because that's what I've always done in life, is just walk away from anything that made me feel uncomfortable. And then plus I was kind of trained to believe that my feelings or emotions weren't valid or weren't important enough to explore. So I was like, well, if he's personally not inquiring more about it, I'm not even gonna bring it up because it doesn't matter. But about an hour or so after that, he sent me a message. No, he called me and he was like, okay, no. He said, I was looking at that and it just didn't sit right. Where did that come from? That was so out of left field. Why the fuck would you say that? Like, you've been a consistent part in my life going on for like, a year or so now. Like I said, with him about half a year or so. With him driving more, we were talking. We became part of each other's routine. And he was like, and now you just want to back off? Like, where the fuck that come from? So I explained to him like, hey, I find myself liking you more. I don't want to mess up our friendship. So that's why I was just saying, I see you more as just a friend and I didn't want to mess that up. And then he was like, why the fuck did you not just say that? Like, he said, that's all you had to say. He was like, I mean, it's understandable that you would have those feelings, those emotions. He said, because, I got them too. He was like, but I'm keeping things into perspective because you said you didn't want a relationship. He's like, so now you're saying like you do want a relationship? And I was like, no. I still don't want a relationship right now. Because I know if I'm coming into a relationship, I want to come into it standing on my own, because the last one I left, I 100% depended on this man for everything. And I didn't want to put myself in another situation like that going into a relationship. And so I was like, I wasn't prepared or ready for one yet. I just needed him to know that those feelings were there. And so we talked about that, discussed that. Everything was good. Everything was fine. He basically told me I need to stop being a little bitch and open my mouth when something's bothering me, especially if we're calling each other friends and trying to have that transparency and be good people and be, and have growth in life. I need to open my mouth and say shit. I was like, you know what? He right. So everything was fine. We continued on being friends. Everything was great until he came back later and he was like, he got a job offer out of state and he was, going to be leaving. I was okay, cool. All right, great. But the thing about that was I've never dealt with a man before who said he was going to do something and followed through all the way to the end. Whether it came to a plan he had for himself, whether it came to, something he had in mind for me. I've never dealt with a man who was true to his word. So when he said he was moving out of state, I heard it, but I didn't believe it. I thought it was just still a thought. It was just still, something he was processing and the possibilities of it. So one night I took him out one night to a little jazz lounge. And then he was like, yeah, it's probably the last time we had to hang out for a while. What are you talking? What you mean? He's like, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm leaving to go where? He said, I told you I got the job out of state. I'm fucking leaving. I'm like, oh. And I really didn't believe that he was going to go until he said it in that moment. And I watched him the next day get in his car and fucking leave. And I was like, he really going. And then that's when it hit me, was like, I really miss this nigga. Like, I really care about this nigga. And he's gone. Like, but, I don't know, part of me kind of thought, okay, well, maybe he'll come back. Maybe it's just temporary, just to kind of reset, but maybe he'll come back. From there, he let me know that he had a job offer at another place in another state, even further away. I was like, what the fuck? So this is real. Like, this is really real. He's going. There ain't shit I can do about it. So he moved to the next state and got a job over there, starting to settle in a life over there. And he talked to me. He was like, once everything gets settled, once I get, stuff situated like I wanted to, you can come out, you can visit me. And I was, all right, great. That sounds good. And I was like, we can still be friends. We can continue this friendship. That's what the fuck planes are for. I can go see him, damn near whenever I wanted to. But then I really had a thought. I was like, damn, I lost him. Like, I really let him get away because I'm, one, too shy to speak up to say more. And two, because I feel like I have to be like 100% on point before I could present myself to him, because I was made to think for so long that I really didn't have anything to offer, or I was never good enough to, I was never going to be good enough for a really good man. So I never felt like I had myself put together enough to be able to present to him. And I just kept putting it off. But now I was like, I lost that fucking opportunity. This man's gone. Then as we continued, he was gone for about a year or so. We continued to talk every day friendship never changed. It's almost like the friendship almost kind of got stronger, in my opinion. We got closer, we was talking all the time, and then we were planning for me to go visit. I wanted to go visit him for my birthday in July, and I was like, I want to go out there for a week. 7 days. I took off. I want to go out there just to chill with him, see what he's like in his element. Because up until then, every time that we hung out, we always hung out in my space. In my environment, in my little bubble. I never really, really got to see him in his bubble. So this would be the first time that I would get to see that, how he interacts and conducts himself in his own space. And so this was kind of big for me. But at the same time, I know that I was going up there with the idea of, if everything is going well, I'm going to ask him about a relationship. It's going to have to be long distance, but the shit's fucked up. I can't let this man get away again. Like, I'm not gonna do that shit. But still, woman logic, not wanting to step up and be a fucking big girl. I was like, hopefully he'll bring it up. Even though I was the one that said I didn't want a relationship, I wanted to be single for the rest of my life. I still wanted him to bring up the idea of us being in a relationship. I don't know how the fuck that made any sense. But we got up there to see him. And one of his friends was having a birthday that same week. And so we went on a little boat party that they were having. And like I said, I'm never, like, the whole time me and him were friends and we were fucking, I never kissed him. I only kissed him once. Yeah, I only kissed him once because I was drunk as shit. But I never kissed him. And I know you probably was saying, Kat, how are you out here fucking, consistently like that, but you ain't kissing this nigga. I don't need to kiss to have sex. If I want to have sex, I don't need that foreplay. I'll just come up to you until you drop your drawers. And that's it. I mean, the show starts. Like, I've never been the type to kiss a lot. And so, but when I went up there to see him on this boat in front of all his friends and people, whatever, I'm just like, I got my tongue all down this nigga throat consistently. Like, it was crazy. And he was confused as shit. And he was like, yeah, we're going to have to talk about this later. Because what the fuck is up with all this PDA? You don't do this shit. And so I'm thinking, okay, cool, we talk about it later. Maybe that'll give him the hint of where I'm trying to take this. And, it'll progress to something else. I don't know why I was thinking so immature. But later on, we did have that conversation. We started talking, and then, asked him, he asked me, what was that about? What was going on? Why was all that kissing for? And so I explained to him, hey, I know this is bad timing, but I really want us to pursue the possibility of a relationship, if that's something that you'd be interested in. It's going to have to be long distance, but I feel like we can handle that. We've been able to maintain such a close friendship, and plus, traveling is easy nowadays. Train, plane, automobile, whatever the fuck. You can get to anywhere rather quickly. And I told him, I said, I thought this through, and I said, I'm only bringing this to you now. I said, even though the timing is off and it'll be long distance, I'm bringing this to you now because this is the first time where I felt like I am as complete and whole as I've ever been, to be able to take it further with you. I can bring something, positive to this relationship versus just my stress and my issues and all my other problems. And I said, now I've thought it all the way through. I said, financially, I'm in a better place. I got a job that gives me the flexibility to be able to come see you. I know that most of the traveling for this relationship is going to be on me. I said, but I've already took the time to calculate you and the expenses of coming out to see you into my monthly budget to where I can come out to fly out to see you once a month for an entire week. I already thought about all of that. I put all that thought into all of that before I even brought this idea of relationship to you. Because I want you to see just how serious I am about making this work. Like, I'm not letting you get away for a second time, nigga. Like, I'm locking you down. I'd be damned if you move to some other state and I gotta sit and try to be your friend on the sideline and watch you with some other bitch knowing that I wanted you, but I was just too damn scared to say something. I wouldn't about to let that shit happen. So we talked about that. He expressed his concerns. I expressed my concerns. So, of course, there's the trust aspect of it. That's a lot of trust you got to put into a person, long distance, to be in a relationship. Infidelity is going to be an issue. Just communication can be an issue. Like, we discussed all the problems, all the issues that we thought that we would have with this whole situation. kind of just laid it out there, and then that conversation was kind of just ended. Like, okay, well, yeah, you know, maybe we can see. And I didn't. That's how I heard it. I thought it was maybe we could see. I didn't know what the fuck it was, so I didn't think we were in a relationship. So the next day, we, you know, wake up, continuing on with my trip there. And I'm just like looking at him like, are we in a relationship or are we not in a relationship? Like, I feel like he never really answered the question. But once again, me being a little scaredy bitch, didn't want to ask him until the last day of me being there. We were headed to the airport early that morning. I was like, it was like a 30 minutes into an hour long drive. And I was like, I don't know if we're in a relationship or not. But I feel the closer and closer we get to this airport, the more anxious I'm getting because I still am unsure about where we are. And the more upset I'm getting because I'm gonna miss him again. Like, what the fuck? This shit is hard. It's weird. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, so are we in a relationship? Like, did we decide are we gonna do this or not? And he was like, yeah. He was like, I definitely want to try this with you. Like, he said, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be tough, but I really feel like we can do this. It's gonna be good. And I was okay, cool. Like, you know, weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt great. It was a very, very bittersweet moment because I got my man. Okay. I was walking away with my fucking man, but now we're going to see him like another month. And I made sure for at least a year or so, I went to go see this nigga once a week, every fucking month. There wasn't no question. That shit was going to happen. But, and then we've been making it work ever since. So like this been what? Matter of fact, July would be 2 years. Since we've been in a relationship. See, he wasn't random. He wasn't just somebody that just kind of just swept me off my feet at the fucking grocery store. He was a friend, a good friend, which I firmly believe that the best relationships start as best friends. You know, and I'm not saying everybody gotta do that, but that works best for me. Okay, it is what it is. But that's how I met this random nigga. You know, hung out with it one time. He ain't left me since. He's been my biggest supporter. He's a fucking awesome person, you know, and you know, I really thank him and appreciate him for a lot. If you see this nigga, fuck you. You ain't shit. Anyway, that's all for this episode of Thoughts and Shit. I hope you enjoyed it. Next episode coming soon. We'll see what personality you get to meet then. Anyway, have a good day.